going to talk about cannabis. I've been in California, like I said, for over 20 years. I started studying the early medical cannabis dispensaries in the Bay Area in the early 2000s and got really excited about what the opportunity might be to introduce a new and novel business model around cannabis. I think a lot of us sitting up here are like, well, as Ethan said, people aren't going to jail, and that's really what it's always been about for me. So after lunch, I'll be moderating a panel about conscious capitalism, which may sound like an oxymoron, but I do think it's important for us to start where we're at in this country and the models that we've got, and then think about how to make them better. So I'm very excited about this conversation, and then I'll be seeing you again after lunch.
Greetings, everyone. I've had a personal history with both cannabis and psychedelics, and having had back surgery, cannabis was a very helpful medicine. I'm not as brought into working in the industry, and because of that, I developed a company that researches cannabis and psychedelics, and we also were able to get the first records approved, and we're offering those through these pharma companies. But through that, we realized that reciprocity for people of color has been lacking in all of these industries, and one of the biggest pieces is that NSC Plant Sciences has given 52% of our equity to research groups and environmental groups that work with them. And part of that is because there's just been a lot of trauma to civilizations around the world, and it hasn't been taken care of. The other side of it is that I really respect the work that Ben and others have done regarding all drugs being decriminalized because no one should be going to jail for doing that. The other side of it is that on that regard, I worked with the FDA for the policy and the hearing of CBD, and then on with the World Health Organization to speak out on the criminalization, and luckily we were able to turn back the World Health Organization's attempt to criminalize and then separately was able to stop the DEA's process to try and control Schedule 1, which I think is for that, which is
Thank you. Obviously, a powerhouse panel. I'm honored to be here. I know Brad gave a brief intro, but in short, I was a journalist for 24 years, most recently as the cannabis editor at the Denver Post, covering the implementation of regulated markets. And now, for the last 6 years, I've been running Grasslands, which is a PR and marketing firm working in cannabis and psychedelics. So it's a pleasure sharing space with all of you. So, as the panel and I put our heads together to try and create the most compelling 40 minutes for all of you, we really developed and agreed upon a main thesis pretty quickly, and it's a thesis that many of you here are already familiar with. The thesis: the emerging psychedelics market and movement is not cannabis 2.0. Right? Yes. The emerging psychedelics movement and industry is not cannabis 2.0. It's not to say that cannabis is good, psychedelics is bad, or vice versa. All of us just agreed that we wanted to start out with this so that everybody knows where we're coming from, because each of us and our partners have found this out the hard way. Put simply, you cannot make the same assumptions you made in cannabis while prepping to invest in or work in the modern psychedelics industry, because there are some very key differences between the two highly regulated markets, and these differences are very much what we're going to be dedicating most of our time to today. So, before we dive deep into those very real differences, I want to start this panel by maybe taking a few brief moments to step back and recognize some of the biggest failures of the modern cannabis industry, because our hope being, if we take a moment to recognize where cannabis is struggling to be a better industry, perhaps psychedelics can learn to do things differently. So, panelists, we'd love to hear each of your feedback. Let's keep it to one. Let's keep it high and bright and tight. Who wants to get us started?
I guess I'll pick up, since this is something that most people don't talk about, is that often the state model system has been held up as an option that gives all these experiments a happen. But going back to indigenous groups and Native Americans, is that because Native Americans their own nation, basically these are equine communities and they're restricted from those markets and they don't participate in modeling. Many times the states will try and allow them to, and there's treaties and compacts, which well, no treaties typically anymore, maybe they're compacts. But there's, because of that, there's many Native Americans that get completely left out of this, and they're still being
And also, I think we got lazy. And I think there was a reason for that. It was such a big lift to convince the public that cannabis wasn't this horrible thing that they've been taught for decades. That when we got to the regulation part, we were like, all right, it's now legal, now it's time for regulation. I think we kind of just collapsed into what we already knew business looked like. And part of that reason was because the public was expecting, right? The public was expecting that cannabis business and regulation and distribution was going to look like that old familiar model that they're used to. But we did have an opportunity based especially on how a lot of the early dispensaries were run, more as bottom-up community health services. We did have an opportunity to reimagine what regulation might look like. And at the end of the day, for the most part, we just didn't do that. We went to high marketing, we went to high volume, we went to focusing on the most intense consumers, we went to, completely saturating marketplaces with dispensaries, with products, something that feels very familiar to us as we are kids, but definitely did not honor the plans, or the relationship that people would most get from this plan. So one reason why I'm really hoping that we can have this conversation now in psychedelics, and not after we've seen 7 or 8 states develop regulations.
Yeah, so great, it's important. Sean and I were just talking backstage. Sure, we as the voters, Colorado citizens, passed 142 last week. Thank goodness. And next up becomes the hard work, the work that Min is talking about, the opportunity to regulate this in a different way. Before we get to your one area, I know that you're one of the people who got at the table. It's a massive responsibility, but can you speak a little bit to the responsibility of the work ahead, given what Min is doing?
Yeah, I totally agree with his last 2 comments. I also underline we haven't done social equity right for cannabis and house and different psychedelics. That relates to the implementation issue. My one big thing I think cannabis failed at is level to give respect and recognition. For 26 years after initial legalization, we're still federally illegal, still suffering with 280E, still having problems with banking, and what will psychedelics do that will be different, especially with state regulated systems. So that's just one comment about the failures of cannabis, but look, I was on the team that put together Movement 64, just like I was in Prop 122. We did a hell of a better job getting community input and hearing from BIPOC communities and seeking out indigenous input, but we still probably failed in that mission because we come to the table already with a legacy of distrust. None of you and anybody in the world trust the government or big corporations or policy reform activists. And so when you put all those people in one room, we don't even know each other, we don't trust each other. And how are you going to make policy in divided communities that have essentially been pitted against each other to keep the status quo? That's why our own harshest critics in Colorado are the biggest legalization advocates. And so, yes, in the coming 2 years as we make rules in Colorado, my goal is to hear that community, to express psychedelic values and lean into the difficult issues and bring light to the challenges. But we are going to fail in certain ways in our regulatory models. And Amanda mentioned this, and we'll be replicating in psychedelics. The question is, can we fail better? Can we fail less? And I think, I don't set that up that we can't do a great job. I'm just saying there's so many forces at play that to expect in one generation for us to transform Schedule I substances into well-regulated, equitable industries with all the cultural baggage and trauma that we bring to the table, it feels almost bigger than we're capable of, but we're going to try. I just feel that there will be failures in the system, and that's why the input from all these communities, from entrepreneurs, from doctors, is so critical in this process. The applications are open now on the governor's website in Colorado. If you want to be on the advisory board, make a chance to here.
Amanda, David, how in your, and from your perspective, how do we fail better? How do we fail less as we approach this next monolithic task of government regulation?
I think we need to be humble. I think we need humility. There's a lot of kind of exertion of power when we're trying to change laws and we're trying to completely change frameworks. but we have to listen more. We can't assume we know what to do, either because we work in cannabis or because we've been using psychedelics for a long time. There's folks whose voices we need to listen to first. And I think if we do that, we're gonna have a much better chance of failing less. But as Sean said, you know, this is not like a 5-year thing. It's like, oh, 5 years ago we legalized psychedelics, now everything's great. I mean, it's a 10-year thing. One of the things Ethan used to tell us at Drug Policy Alliance, if you're a drug policy reformer, part of that work is planting seeds that you may never see grow. And so that's what we all have to admit. We have to be humble enough to say, you know what, I'm gonna plant this seed, but then I'm gonna hand it off and let someone else nurture this plant and grow it into what it can be. And I think everyone here on the stage.
Those are all really important, and I think part of it is being open to additional ideas of how business and regulation and things that occur outside of what we're into traditionally as a Western society. We're seeing like you some of the labs that Ariel mentioned, the public benefit corporations are taking policy against our society. I think one thing that could be really helpful is this thing called the Convention on Biological Diversity and protocol, and that being passed and adopted by the United States and Canada would go a long way. It's a document that's basically is international law in every country outside of North Korea, the Vatican, the United States, Canada, Sudan, and signed it. And basically requires that you respect indigenous rights to plants and animals and other aspects. And then also that you have to work with them to develop them, and then that will help protect the ecosystems and basically enshrine reciprocity for people of color. And so I think that being adopted by the United States can be a big way towards making these changes.
Appreciate all of that. Let's talk about consumers a little bit, because I find that in some of my conversations with colleagues, friends, clients who are thinking about getting active in this space, they're not thinking about this consumer, which is a very different consumer than we have in cannabis. So, who are the psychedelics consumers for these new regulated markets we're creating? Especially when you compare them to cannabis consumers, and how will their buying and consumption patterns be different in this newer market? I know, Amanda, you have a lot of opinions about this.
I do have a lot of opinions about this. I've been studying cannabis consumers for so long. But you know, cannabis is something that a lot of us experience without someone helping us experience. After going to a party, maybe someone gave us some cannabis at some point and maybe smoked it with us and told us how to light it and how to inhale. But there's a lot of self-discovery around cannabis that makes consumers fairly independent, right? They go to a dispensary, they may ask for a couple of questions, but they have a pretty good sense of the type of cannabis products they enjoy. Most people enjoy flower, edibles are more popular. But psychedelics consumers, don't necessarily have that education. And there's a higher risk to not knowing what you're doing. And so I think, seeking out how healthy and positive psychedelics experiences isn't going to be just going into a product buy at the store. There's going to be a whole other set of knowledge that people are going to have in order to maximize benefit and reduce harm. And so I think that the consumers, not only are they coming into it less educated and less experienced in cannabis, but they have different needs than just which is the best edible for me to buy, or which is the best flower, or what's on sale today, or what was grown locally. There's a whole other question about intention and mental health and set and setting. And so I think with psychedelics consumers, it's going to be a lot bigger lift to have them have that good experience, and the consumption rates are going to be different. I mean, microdosing aside, right? Because we just saw that microdosing, apparently people are microdosing every day, like everyone is microdosing. All of y'all are probably microdosing right now. So microdosing aside, because it is, a non-psychoactive experience, when we look at people that are using psychedelics for psychoactive experiences, they're not doing it 5 days a week. They're doing it maybe once a month. If they're doing it in therapy, it may be a few sessions in a month. But when we look at cannabis consumers, most regular consumers are consuming 4 to 5 times a day. So even just that difference in the intensity of consumption is going to warrant a different approach for consumers of cannabis versus
And of course, Sean, if we're talking about a regulated market and this unregulated market, they will coexist and well beyond all of our lifetimes. But to Amanda's point, I think one of the really sexy opportunities a lot of people want to do is like, ooh, this idea for a psilocybin chocolate bar, whatever it might be. But where is the consumer in the regulated market? And realistically, how often are they going to be buying? What data are you working with? Because you're writing or starting to write advice for.
Yeah, I get these calls all the time. People who want to make the psilocybin chocolate bar, people that are making it, frankly. The largest open air psychedelic market is actually in California, where you can buy branded psilocybin at unlicensed dispensaries all across California. And so that's there. But I used to have this joke to entrepreneurs, let me try to talk you out of getting into cannabis. And I'm going to try to modify that because I really want people in psychedelics. I want to develop and help the market here. But boy, is it going to be challenging if you just believe the numbers that only 1 or 2% of people regularly use psychedelics compared to 20% of Americans who might regularly use cannabis. I think there's a market, 1/10 or 1/20 the size of cannabis, which puts Colorado maybe at $100 to $200 million market. And by the way, there's no brands. You're not going to have a branded product in Colorado. You're going to have maybe a branded store, but there's only 5 stores maximum per individual. So I think it's a very challenging environment, and the most likely place that people are getting access, is the unregulated market, and there's no accountability in that at all. I believe in that. I fought for it. I want home grown, and we have that in Colorado now. I want ceremonial use. I think that's my favorite place to find healing, and I think a lot of people will access it that way. But yeah, I think that's a small percentage. I do think the mass of society is looking at psychedelics as a medical thing. And we don't have shamans in the U.S., we have doctors who heal us. And so that's why people will be attracted to these therapeutic centers. That's why I think a regulated model is important, because people that would never go to a shaman are going to go to a therapist or a healing center in a regulated market where they feel safe. And so the hope is that you can catalyze change for a lot more people in that market than you ever would in the 5% of us that regularly engage in psychedelic use with ceremonial way. So, I'm not trying to talk people out of it. It's just going to be very challenging in many of these regulated markets with all those things I said earlier. And I think the use, like everybody said, 2-3 times in a year, you're not going to have somebody, using, microdosing. You're going to go to a center to microdose. I'm just not sure that functionally will work. Those people are probably getting access through unregulated sources.
I did some psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy over lockdown, which was really meaningful for me, through ketamine, through the regulated market, and now I'm entering the unregulated market with some more goodness in a basement session that's also been helpful. But David, as we think about this consumer and this consumer base, what are the other blind spots? What are we missing up here before we kind of move to business and investment?
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of in the middle of this is part of the next part as well, is that all the markets we're talking about kind of here, hinting about, are all still federally legal. So technically, although you can be in the state, like there's protections federally for not getting cannabis, not getting rated. There's no protection for psilocybin or for any of this. So at any point, any of those businesses set up in California or Oregon or Colorado can be rated by the DEA at any moment. And so that's one concern still to think about is that side, and that because of that, there's the flip side is medical research happening and that's DEA license for FDA approved therapies that are federally, which isn't fair. I'm not saying this is how it should be, but this is how it is. You can just research and start doing clinical trials, and those drugs will probably be approved and legally the doctor can get them in the next 2 years. And so you're having this interesting dichotomy where if our product exists, it's probably going to be like Oregon only allows it pretty much. And then you have the other where it's going to be purified isolate. So I think for the next 2 to 4 years, besides the gray market, those are going to be your only 2 options.
Well, we're already kind of leaning into that business side, so let's talk about some of the business opportunities, because of course in cannabis we're talking about who's growing the best flower, making the best edibles, and integrating the most strategic multi-state expansion plans. But in psychedelics, where is that business opportunity going to be? I mean, Amanda, will it be on the brand side, the therapy side, ancillary sides, or else?
No, yes, yes. So yeah, as I said before, with psychedelics, there's a lot more preparation, integration, and support services that are needed for people to use them successfully. And so while I absolutely agree with social consumption for cannabis, I think it's a very important harm reduction tool. I think it's extremely important for equity for people, no matter who they are, where they live, to be able to go and consume cannabis in a safe space. A lot of social consumption around cannabis is really just giving us space, right? And saying, no one's gonna yell at you for smoking in here. You can sit here, you can sit down, you can relax. You don't have to look over your shoulder to see if you're gonna get in trouble, and you can just consume your cannabis. And most of the early dispensaries have that option, because cannabis consumption was still so stigmatized that even in a place like San Francisco, people didn't want to consume in their apartments, they didn't want to consume outside. So dispensaries really played that role. Now, people consume in their homes, social consumption is important, but with psychedelics, there's going to be a whole host of people that have never done psychedelics that are like, where do I start? So perfect example, my parents, I'm sure they won't mind me having them. My parents are in their 70s and they did their first mushroom trip a few minutes ago. And so, they came to me because I'm in this field and I know what to tell them and how to create a set and setting and how to reduce the likelihood of a negative experience and increase the likelihood of a positive experience. But most people don't have someone close to them that works in psychedelics who they can ask. So these folks are going to need support. They're going to need to know what psychedelics do, how much they should take, how they should create an environment so that they have a beneficial experience and minimize harm, how they integrate that experience into their life afterward. And this isn't something that people are just born knowing. So folks that can provide this education, folks that can be that support system for people that are newer to psychedelics or revisiting psychedelics is going to be a huge part of the industry. Not to mention safe spaces to use psychedelics. So you're talking about basement sessions, right? So retreats, safe spaces where people can go and be supported during psychedelic use. This is all something that we are not inventing. This is how psychedelics are traditionally consumed. So this is a model that we really need to adopt so that we don't have people with bad experiences. Because as Ethan mentioned earlier, that pendulum does swing. And all we need is a whole bunch of 17-year-olds that get a hold of a ton of mushrooms and have a really bad experience that's highly publicized to see that pendulum start to swing the other direction. So it's not just about ensuring that people have good experiences, it's about ensuring the future of psychedelics by being responsible about how we introduce it to society.
It's so true. I mean, Sean remembers the first year of legalization in Colorado for cannabis, and there were a couple high-profile age one, tragedies that happened that were related, because that was the root cause of it. Sean, can you answer that?
Well, I just want to say, I agree with what Amanda said earlier. Psychedelics is a service, cannabis is a commodity. And that's the difference between the two things. You can sell cannabis to a brand, you can take it home. Psilocybin and psychedelics are going to be a therapeutic model, a service model. But also to expand on what Amanda said, this unregulated side is another competitor. I support the unregulated side, but think about this. In Colorado, when the governor certifies the election in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be the largest legal psychedelic market in the world where people can charge for spiritual counseling and give away psychedelics. They can charge for a weekend retreat and give away the psychedelic legally under Colorado law. So, you're going to have an entire part of the market that, what's the difference between cannabis and psychedelics? It was legacy operators in cannabis who stepped up, who knew how to grow, who had a relationship with the plant, and they're stepping into the regulation. In psychedelics, it's more sophisticated therapists, VCs that are starting, therapy companies. But those legacy people in psychedelics are going to end up in that unregulated space of ceremonial use, therapeutic use, spiritual counseling. And, it might be just like it is in cannabis, where 40-50% of the market is that unregulated side. And I'm happy about that because I think there's a lot of great opportunities there and a lot of healing can happen. But I think people should be sober about that.
And David, from one indigenous human to another, I know how important the spiritual use is to you. How do you think these strange bedfellows, these different use cases are going to cohabitate and live alongside one another?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of indigenous rights and uses that need to be protected, like the Native American church's use and groups with that we will be speaking later, for example, and others not actually try to ban meeting it in DC regarding getting access to be able to be access to trustees currently I have, and yet that's only the federal government to be able to licenses, and that's a little bit ridiculous. A lot of it's ridiculous, and so that's something that needs to change. And additionally, I think in particular regarding that Texas still has a lot of law for people who are Native Americans to be able to work and harvested from cannabis. And so if you aren't at least a quarter Native American, you can't actually do it. So you can't even go access the medicine if you're not at least a quarter in Texas. Other states don't have that requirement. So that's something that needs to change. But then I myself have a separate religious organization myself where it's not related to indigenous rights, that's church. And so I think that's going to happen is that there's a huge spectrum of these options because psychedelics inherently have a spiritual component, in my opinion. Healing is obviously a portion of that as well, and they heal me from PTSD and other suicide syndromes. I don't know if healing is the right word, but it's still a process, but I guess healing is the right word, not healing. And so I think that, like I said earlier, it was like allowing our society to integrate these various models rather than just a capitalistic model will be interesting, whether it's religious or just communal collectives, or there's just so many options. I think we need all of them.
Now, we talked about the consumers, we talked about some of the business opportunities. I want to talk about investors, since I know we have quite a few of you in the room today. The investors are so essential to this pre-revenue market in the years ahead. What might the differences between the psychedelics and cannabis markets mean for investors and how they approach this space? I mean, David, I know you're in the middle of a race, so why don't you get started?
It's a really interesting time with the economy right now. So, outside of the chaos with global markets, which has been making raising, well, I guess I'll just touch on that. So, right now, the economy and the interest rates going up is making it really difficult for public psychedelic companies because getting a drug legalized and or approved by the FDA, you're going to spend $100 million alone. And so, there's only maybe 2 or 3 companies that have that value in their entire company, let alone the free capital to be able to do that. So that means they have to raise that capital. Well, good luck raising capital when interest rates are skyrocketing and you're heading into a recession. You've seen numerous psychedelic public companies including mine and others, cutting their pathways for drug marketing and public trials because of it, because they cannot afford to get these drugs to market, which means in the majority of the companies are actually going to go under. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have this kind of giant culling of the market right now, and which is a good thing in my opinion, because most of these companies don't deserve to exist. And I mean, it's just how it is, whether ethically or just not good marketing, not good strategy. So it's unfortunate, but it's going to happen, and it's been making it really difficult for us to raise. But the other thing is everyone's focusing on mental health. The psychedelics, for example, phenethylamines are actually and studies are as beneficial as albuterol for asthma. And so that's something you could take like once a month and not have issues with asthma in early trials, or inflammation, or pain, or diabetes, cancer. And the other thing is that those have endpoints that are easily measurable, rather than depression, which is a score that's very subjective by humans, or anxiety, other things. Companies having a very hard time getting drugs approved because they're going after mental health. And I appreciate the benefits for that, but I think that addiction, again, a measurable outcome, and focusing on things like that will be how companies get drugs approved.
Appreciate that. Anything else quick to add from the investment point? We do have some audience questions I'd love to get to.
I'll just say that one challenge is, if you look at Colorado's result, we actually got 53.5%, so it was really closer earlier in the returns, but it's been growing. That still suggests we have a real challenge for these other states. In Colorado, we only go 53%. I mean, we were very aggressive with our initiative. But if you're thinking your company's gonna start in Oregon, Colorado, and go to California, Washington, Nevada, Arizona, all the likely states that would be next, I mean, it's gonna be tough, is my point. These are gonna be close elections. The public is not quite there yet. They know cannabis way better than they know psychedelics, and so, you know, if your plan is a multi-state operation, I think you want to be very patient.
Long runway. Okay, a couple audience questions. Thanks for submitting these. Would you envision convergence between psychedelics and cannabis retail / medical dispensary or other buying channels?
I think you're trying to do a fraud.
Well, I think there's not, it's going to exist. How is it going to, I mean, eventually it'll exist, but the thing is with cannabis, or California even has specific laws that ban even CBD being sold in any, or if you sell CBD, you can't get a license. So so yes, but I think it's going to be like 10 years before the market is allowed legally in regulated markets.
We're so fetishized about toxicants that I don't see cannabis and psychedelics getting in the same room anytime soon, but long term, maybe they should. Maybe there should be a product. Cannabis is a great way to come down on psychedelics, by the way. So why are we keeping it separate?
There was a conversation in Canada on whether cannabis could cohabitate at retail with alcohol, which, you know, I think we understand there's some problems with that, but for convenience sake. And the next audience question is, what should third-party testing look like when it comes to decriminalizing psychedelics, similar to cannabis?
I love that. Testing is something that's incredibly important because we need a safe market. The problems with fentanyl that were mentioned earlier is because we don't have an open market that allows testing. If testing was allowed, you can get reagent testing. Anyone here can order reagent chemicals, and you can get those at home, and they change different colors based on the drugs that are there. And you can identify fentanyl at home. You can identify other chemicals and identify which drugs you're using at home. You don't need a lab. It's not going to tell you everything about what's there. But to identify things that are going to kill you, that's a very important tool. And so I think that it's something that we need drastically so people know what they're getting. Because the problem with chocolate bars, the problem with candies, is that you don't know what's in it. There's lots of synthetic psychedelics which are fine, but they don't have the same safety profile of dosing that natural compounds do. And you need to know how much of what you're taking. Because 15 milligrams and 50 milligrams is, you can't even eyeball that difference. But it would be drastically different in how long
And we hear from the cannabis operators regularly that testing is a barrier to entry. What's your thought about this question?
Well, I completely agree. I mean, one of the big barriers to people using psychedelics is they're afraid. You know, they've been impacted by the stories of people going crazy and never coming back, and, you know, having these kind of out-of-control experiences is definitely the biggest concern right now. And so I think folks are looking for something that is reliable, that is standardized. It's one of the reasons why edibles and beverages have really taken off in the cannabis market, is because someone smokes a joint and they have no idea, you know, how potent it was, or what it's going to do to them. With an edible, they're like, this is 2 milligrams, and exactly what 2 milligrams does. And so I think we do need that. And when you look at just the different varieties of flavors, the difference between 2 grams of golden kefir versus 2 grams of Philadelphia, you know, that'd be a very different experience. And so folks need to know that, and they need to be able to know what's going to happen and what that is going to look like. And they also need to know that it's safe. I mean, that's one of the biggest benefits of having a regulated market, is that you know if what you are taking is been approved, and that if it isn't safe or it harms you, that someone has to answer for that. And so there's a liability question, right? You know, if I need a rush from top and have a really bad experience, and if I did something wrong, if you know, wrong, so I do think we're going to have to bring in.
I'm so sorry.
Testing, we're going to see mass adoption of psychedelics, partly because to help make partly because of the individual concerns and fears that people have around taking psychedelics.
Yes, but it's fatal in testing cannabis because in some places it's too rigorous, in other places it's too light, so we have to learn the lessons and not let testing become this barrier.
Yes, and love that message. This last audience question for you guys. What's wrong with the
Yeah, I mean, what I basically tell therapists is, look, if you want no risk, then you should be working with psychedelics. There is going to be risk in what you do by the nature of you breaking ground. There's even questions, obviously some people say preparatory work could violate your licensure requirements. Everybody says integration is fine, but I've gotten calls from therapists who are being sued by clients because they led them on a psilocybin journey on the side and it went bad, and then somebody, gets sued. We live in a very litigious society with a lot of novice psychedelic users who might blame others for their bad experience. So I think, just talk to a good lawyer, think about good disclosure forms, really screen your clients, because you are a problem client that you should have screened better and not worked with, that you trust your instincts. Those are the people that get attracted from regulators. So proceed with caution and protect yourself.
Good advice. Everybody, really quick, I was talking to Brad and Sarah last night. I was telling them straight up, this is the first remind ever. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back at this day. We were in the room together. Amazing to share space with all of you. Incredible to share space with all of you, my friends. So thank you, everybody.
Nice. And they got the spread going too. So they just rolled out all this food and still rolling out foods and drinks. Look how awesome that is. So, time for lunch. Yes, blessed. Jesus. Tell me that's not amazing. The first Remind ever. That's live right here on Saints Addiction's channel, baby. Your boy Marquis Saint. I be getting it in. That's blessed. Come get some. I'm about to watch everybody scarf down, and then we're about to do all sorts of cooking, food, and everything else. So it's so fucking awesome. So, do rewind, share, like, share, subscribe. It's fucking awesome. And watch all these people come live real quick.